2.5. It's the study guide. It's on midpoints. They show you right on this study guide how to find the midpoint if you're on a number line and how to find the midpoint if you're in the coordinate plane. Remember, the best way to do it, one word, just find the average. So you would take the coordinates of your endpoints, add them, and divide by 2. That's what an average is. Same thing in your coordinate plane, except now there's an x and a y value for each point. You would average the x's, then average the y's. Add and divide by 2 for both. So your midpoint ends up being a point in the coordinate plane where you have an x and a y value. Okay. In this first section it says to use the number line to find the coordinate of the midpoint of each segment. Since you're finding the coordinate of the midpoint, your answer is going to be a number. For example, you need the midpoint of segment AB. A lives at -12. B lives at -7. We should have looked at the number line first. That's always a good thing to do. Make sure you're counting by ones or twos or whatever, maybe fives or maybe halves. It looks like we're counting by ones. They don't have each coordinate listed, but we're going from 0 to 2 with a point in between. That's obviously 1. So we're counting by ones. So B lives at -7. A lives at -12. What you need to do is average those. What is the average of a -7 and a -12? Some of you may be able to do that in your head. If not, there's nothing wrong with using your calculator. Just make sure you know how to use it correctly. Oh, you can't see that. Okay, so the coordinate of that midpoint would be at -9.5. Let's try another one. Let's try number 7. Find the midpoint of segment GE. G lives at 3. E lives at 10. You want to average those. What is the average of a 3 and a 10? You can just type it in the calculator. Just make sure you're using parentheses, so you add before you divide. If you don't use parentheses, it's going to give you the wrong answer. That number they give you is the coordinate, which is what they asked for. So that's all you need to do in this section. The rest of them are just the same way. Now, the bottom section, they give you a graph to look at, a coordinate plane with some points graph. They're asking you to find the coordinates of the midpoint of each segment. So again, your answer is going to be a number. So look at number 9, segment JK. J lives at 2, 4. Knowing those coordinates is important. K lives at 1, 2, 3, 4 to the left, and 4 up. So you need to identify where these ordered pairs live first. If you do that incorrectly, it's going to be really hard to get the midpoint correct. Okay? So what is the midpoint? What are the coordinates of the midpoint for segment JK? Well, if you look at the y values, they're both the same. They're both 4. So the average of two 4s is a 4. 4 plus 4 is 8. 8 divided by 2 is 4. Do the same thing for the x's now, because notice how they're different numbers. Negative 4 plus 2, that gives you negative 2. And then when you divide that by 2, you get negative 1. And the nice thing about this is you can plot this over here and see if it looks like it's the midpoint. So plot the ordered pair negative 1, 4. Is this the midpoint of these 2 points? Well, you can check if you want. 1, 2, 3 to that endpoint. 1, 2, 3 to that endpoint. That's how you know that you're right. We'll pick one more to do. Let's do segment PT. That's a diagonal segment. Let's make sure we know where both points live. I'm not sure why I wrote that over there. P lives at negative 4, negative 3. Point T lives at positive 4, negative 4. Again, you can use what you know about quadrants to make sure that that seems reasonable. It's positive then negative, negative then negative. That makes sense, depending on what quadrants they're in. Okay, so let's average these ordered pairs. We need to average the x's. Negative 4 plus 4. Then divide by 2. Whatever that gives you will be the x value of your ordered pair. Average your y's, negative 3 and negative 4. Negative 4 plus 4 is 0, and 0 divided by 2 is 0. Negative 3 plus negative 4 is negative 7. And when you divide that by 2, you get negative 3.5, or just negative 7 halves. That's the fraction version for that decimal. Negative 3.5 probably makes more sense to you, but on a standardized test, this is probably what you're going to see. Okay, so you can double check. Where does this ordered pair live? Well, it definitely lives, has an x-coordinate of 0. What's the y-coordinate? 1, 2, 3, and it's in between 3 and 4. It looks like it's directly in between to me. So negative 3.5 certainly does make sense there.